Most people fight battles with emotion. The wise fight with strategy. You must understand, true power is not loud. It is not frantic. It does not chase. It plans. It waits. And when the moment is right, it strikes with perfect precision. The chaos of life is no different from the battlefield. If you react without control, you lose. But if you think 3 moves ahead, you win before the fight even begins. Victory belongs not to the strongest, but to the most disciplined. This is the art of strategic control. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? Listen carefully to what I am about to tell you. There is a war being waged right now, in this very moment, but you cannot see it with your eyes. This battlefield exists in the space between your thoughts, in the quiet moments when you decide to act or to hesitate, to advance or to retreat. Every morning when you open your eyes, you enter this invisible war. The enemies? They are not external forces. They are the silent saboteurs within your own mind. Distraction, doubt, impulse, fear. These are your true opponents, and they are far more dangerous than any external adversary you will ever face. See, most people live their entire lives never understanding this fundamental truth. The greatest battles you will ever fight are not out there in the world. They are fought in the sanctuary of your own consciousness. This is where empires rise and fall, where victories are secured or lost before a single move is made in the physical realm. Think about the last time you failed to achieve what you desired. Was it truly because the external circumstances were against you, or was it because you lost the battle within first? Did you succumb to distraction when focus was needed? Did you let impulse override strategy? Did you allow emotion to cloud your judgment when clarity was essential? The modern world understands nothing of true warfare. They think power comes from aggressive action, from constant motion, from making noise. But I tell you this, true power begins in absolute stillness. It begins in the moment you recognize that every thought, every emotion, every impulse is either serving your strategy or undermining it. There is no neutral ground in this war. Consider the general who cannot control his own troops. How can he expect to control the battlefield? You are no different. If you cannot command your own thoughts, if you cannot direct your own energy, if you cannot maintain discipline over your own actions, how do you expect to command anything in the external world? This is why the first principle of strategic mastery is self-conquest. Before you can implement any strategy, before you can outmaneuver any opponent, before you can seize any opportunity, you must first establish absolute dominion over your own mind. The untrained mind is like an army in chaos. Troops running in all directions, no clear chain of command, no coordination, no purpose. Is it any wonder that such internal disorder leads to external defeat? But the mind of a strategist is like a well-disciplined army. Every thought has its purpose. Every emotion serves the greater mission. Every action advances the overall campaign. Look at how the masses live, constantly reacting, constantly at the mercy of external triggers, constantly fighting battles they never chose, on terrain they never selected. They are like leaves in the wind, believing they are free because they can flutter in any direction, never realizing they have no control over their movement. But you must be different. You must understand that the first step in any strategic victory is establishing complete dominion over this invisible battlefield. Every thought must be examined. Every emotion must be questioned. Every impulse must be evaluated against your greater strategy. This is not about suppression. It is about command. It is about understanding that your mind is the command center from which all victory or defeat ultimately springs. When you truly grasp this, when you begin to approach each day as a campaign to be won rather than a series of random skirmishes, everything changes. The distractions that once derailed you become powerless against your focused will. The emotions that once clouded your judgment become fuel for your strategic fire. The impulses that once led you astray become subordinate to your greater purpose. Remember this. In the invisible war, the battlefield is your mind, the enemy is chaos, and the prize is nothing less than complete strategic control over your own destiny. Every other victory you seek, in business, in relationships, in life itself, will flow from your success or failure in this primary campaign. So I ask you, are you ready to become the supreme commander of your own mind? Are you prepared to fight and win the invisible war? Because until you master this inner battlefield, until you establish absolute strategic control over your own thoughts and actions, you will always be fighting from a position of weakness. The war begins now. The battlefield is within, and victory. Victory awaits those who have the wisdom to recognize this truth and the courage to act upon it. There is a force that has destroyed more warriors than any weapon, toppled more empires than any army, and sabotaged more victories than any enemy. This force is not external. It lives within you. It is emotion. Let me be clear. I do not speak of emotion as something to be eliminated. That would be as foolish as trying to eliminate the wind. But just as a skilled sailor learns to harness the wind rather than be driven by it, a strategic warrior learns to channel emotion rather than be controlled by it. Look around you. What do you see? A world of reactionary beings, slaves to their emotional impulses. They become angry, and immediately they strike, revealing their strategy. They become afraid, and immediately they retreat, exposing their weakness. They become excited, and immediately they act, squandering their advantage. This is the behavior of amateurs, not strategists. Consider this truth. Every time you react emotionally, you surrender strategic control. Every time you let feeling override thinking, you hand power to your opponents. Every time you act from impulse rather than calculation, you telegraph your next move to those who are watching with strategic eyes. The masses believe that showing emotion demonstrates strength. They are wrong. True power lies in emotional mastery. When others scream, you must be silent. When others rush, you must be still. When others react, you must respond. This is not suppression. It is superiority. Think of the last time emotion clouded your judgment. Perhaps it was anger that made you speak when silence would have been more powerful. Perhaps it was fear that made you retreat when advancing would have secured victory. Perhaps it was excitement that made you reveal your hand when patience would have doubled your advantage. This is how emotion becomes the enemy of strategy. It does not attack you directly. It corrupts your decision-making process. It hijacks your tactical mind and replaces strategic thinking with impulsive action. And in that moment of emotional indulgence, all your careful planning, all your strategic positioning, all your tactical advantages can be lost. But there is a deeper truth here that most fail to grasp. Emotion itself is neutral. It is your relationship with emotion that determines whether it becomes a weapon for you or against you. The strategic warrior learns to use emotion as fuel while never letting it take the wheel. When you feel anger rising, do not suppress it, direct it. Channel its energy into focused strategy rather than blind reaction. When you feel fear emerging, do not deny it, harness it. Let it sharpen your awareness rather than trigger your retreat. When you feel excitement building, do not indulge it, control it. Transform its power into calculated action rather than impulsive movement. This is the art of emotional transmutation, the ability to transform raw emotional energy into strategic advantage. But this art requires practice, discipline, and above all awareness. You must become a student of your own emotional patterns. You must learn to recognize the first stirring of emotion before it becomes a tsunami of reaction. Watch how the untrained respond to provocation. They take the bait every time, thinking they are defending their honor when they are actually falling into their opponent's trap. But the strategic warrior understands that most provocations are tests of emotional control, tests of strategic discipline, tests of tactical wisdom. Remember this: in any confrontation, The one who maintains emotional control holds the superior position. When you remain calm in the face of chaos, you become unreadable. When you stay focused while others fracture, you become unstoppable. When you respond strategically while others react emotionally, you become unbeatable. This is why the strategists emphasized emotional mastery above all other skills. They understood that all the tactical knowledge in the world means nothing if you cannot maintain strategic control over your own emotional state. So I challenge you. Begin to observe your emotional triggers with strategic awareness. Notice how often you react rather than respond. Pay attention to how emotion influences your decision-making. Start treating every emotional impulse as a strategic choice rather than an irresistible command. The next time you feel a strong emotion rising, pause. In that pause lies your power. In that moment of conscious choice between reaction and response, you discover true strategic control. This is how you transform emotion from enemy to ally, from master to servant, from weakness to strength. Remember, the greatest battles are not won through emotional intensity, but through strategic clarity. The strongest position is not the one taken in anger, but the one chosen in wisdom. The most powerful move is not the one driven by feeling, but the one guided by strategy. Your emotions are like the weather. They will always exist, always. Change, always influence. But you must become like the mountain, unshaken by storms, unmoved by winds, maintaining your strategic position regardless of the emotional climate. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Before any great campaign begins, before any strategy can be effectively deployed, there is one fundamental task that cannot be ignored. You must know yourself completely. This is not the superficial self-knowledge that most people claim to possess. I speak of something far deeper, far more crucial to your strategic success. Think carefully now. Do you truly know your own strengths? Not the strengths you wish you had, not the strengths others tell you that you possess, but your genuine, tested, proven capabilities? More importantly, do you truly understand your weaknesses? Not the superficial flaws you readily admit to, but the deep, hidden vulnerabilities that could collapse your entire strategy in a crucial moment. The amateur strategist focuses all their attention on external factors, their competitors, their circumstances, their opportunities. But the master strategist understands that the most dangerous unknown variable in any campaign is oneself. You can study your opponents for years, but if you do not know yourself, you will still lose. Consider this. Every weakness you have not identified is a weapon you have given to your opponents. Every blind spot you have not acknowledged is a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. Every false belief about your own capabilities is a strategic error waiting to happen. This is why self-deception is the first enemy you must defeat. Let me share with you the method of strategic self-analysis. First, you must examine your past battles, not with emotion, not with judgment, but with cold, tactical precision. Look for patterns. When did you succeed? More importantly, when did you fail? What were the real reasons for each outcome? Strip away the excuses, the justifications, the stories you tell yourself. Look only for truth. In every defeat, there lies a lesson about yourself. In every victory, there lies a clue about your true strengths. But you must have the courage to look without flinching, to analyze without ego, to learn without defensiveness. This is harder than it sounds. The ego is a master of self-deception, always ready to protect itself with comfortable lies. Now, examine your current position. What resources do you truly command? Not what you wish you had, not what you're working towards, but what you possess right now, in this moment. What skills have you genuinely mastered? What advantages can you reliably deploy? What weaknesses must you guard against? This inventory must be ruthlessly honest. The strategic warrior understands that true self-knowledge is not a destination. It is a continuous process. Your strengths and weaknesses evolve. Your capabilities change. Your position shifts. This is why you must constantly reassess, constantly reevaluate, constantly update your self-knowledge. But here is what most fail to grasp. Self-knowledge is not just about identifying weaknesses to eliminate them. Sometimes the strategic path is to accept a weakness and build your strategy around it. Sometimes knowing your limitations is more valuable than trying to overcome them. Think of it this way. A general who knows his army lacks cavalry doesn't waste time trying to train mounted warriors. He develops tactics that make cavalry irrelevant. A strategist who knows they lack patience doesn't try to become patient overnight. They create systems that compensate for this trait. This is the paradox of strategic self-knowledge. Sometimes your weaknesses, once fully understood, can become the foundation of your strength. But this transformation can only occur through honest recognition and strategic adaptation. Let me be clear about something. This process of strategic self-analysis will be uncomfortable. You will discover things about yourself that you would prefer not to know. You will have to abandon comfortable illusions. You will have to face hard truths. But remember, every truth you refuse to face becomes a weapon in your opponent's hands. Now, once you have this deep self-knowledge, once you truly understand your strategic position, your real capabilities, your actual weaknesses, then, and only then, can you begin to strike with true precision. Because now you know exactly what moves you can make, what risks you can take, what positions you can hold. This is why the ancient strategists always emphasized, know yourself before you study your opponent. Because without self-knowledge, all other knowledge is useless. Without self-awareness, all strategy is built on sand. Without self-understanding, every victory is temporary, every advantage is fragile. Remember this. In the game of strategy, self-deception is not just a weakness. It is defeat accepted in advance. Every false belief about yourself, every unacknowledged weakness, every overestimated strength is a time bomb waiting to explode at the worst possible moment. So, I challenge you, begin this process of strategic self-analysis today. Start examining your past battles with tactical objectivity. Start assessing your current position with ruthless honesty. Start identifying your true strengths and genuine weaknesses with unflinching clarity. Because only when you truly know yourself, your real self, not your imagined self, can you begin to develop strategies that will actually work. Only when you understand your genuine position can you plot a course to victory. Only when you accept your true starting point can you begin the journey to mastery. This is the foundation of all strategic success. This is the beginning of true power. Know yourself first, then and only then strike. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, for this lesson separates the true strategist from the amateur. The greatest power moves in absolute silence. The most effective strategies unfold in shadow. The decisive victories are secured before anyone realizes the battle has begun. Consider the folly of those who announce their every move, who broadcast their intentions, who mistake noise for power. They are like children playing at war, not understanding that every declaration is a strategic liability, every announcement a tactical weakness. You see, most people have been conditioned to believe that power must be visible to be real. They feel compelled to demonstrate their strength, to prove their progress, to announce their ambitions. This is not the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path of the strategic amateur. Let me share with you a fundamental truth. The moment you reveal your strategy, you give your opponents the power to defeat it. The instant you announce your intentions, you allow others to prepare their defenses. Every time you broadcast your moves, you surrender the advantage of surprise. Think about the natural world. Does the tiger announce its presence before it strikes? Does the eagle broadcast its descent before it seizes its prey? No. They move in silence, they strike from shadow. They maintain the advantage of concealment until the precise moment of action. You must learn to operate with this same strategic discretion. Your plans should be like underground rivers, powerful, constant, but invisible to those who walk above. Your preparations should be like the changing of seasons, gradual, inevitable, but noticed only when they are already complete. This principle applies to every aspect of your strategic life. Are you building a business? Work in silence until your position is unassailable. Are you developing a new skill? Practice in private until your mastery is undeniable. Are you planning a major move? Keep it hidden until execution is inevitable. But understand this, moving in shadows does not mean operating in fear. It is not about hiding from conflict or avoiding challenges. It is about maintaining strategic advantage. It is about choosing the time and place of revelation. It is about controlling the flow of information as carefully as you control the flow of resources. The masses have been programmed to share everything, to document every step, to seek validation at every turn. This is strategic suicide. Every piece of information you release is a piece of advantage you surrender. Every progress report you give is a warning to your competitors. Every intention you announce is a chance for opposition to form. Consider how many opportunities have been lost because of premature announcement. How many competitors have been alerted because of unnecessary sharing? How many advantages have been surrendered because of the need for recognition? This is not the way of the strategic warrior. Instead, learn to find satisfaction in silent progress. Learn to find confidence in private achievement. Learn to find strength in strategic patience. Your results will speak far louder than any announcement ever could. Remember this, true power does not need to announce itself. It does not seek attention. It does not require validation. It simply builds, grows, and strengthens, all in silence, all in shadow, all away from prying eyes and opposing forces. This principle extends beyond mere secrecy. It is about understanding the strategic value of information control. Every piece of information about your capabilities, your intentions, your progress is a strategic resource. Treat it with the same care you would treat any other crucial asset. Think carefully about what you reveal and what you conceal. Be strategic about when you demonstrate strength and when you maintain ambiguity. Understand that sometimes the appearance of weakness is your greatest strength, and the appearance of inaction is your most powerful move. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to be visible and times to be invisible, times to demonstrate power and times to conceal it, times to make noise and times to maintain silence. The key is knowing which is which and having the discipline to act accordingly. So I challenge you, begin to move more carefully in the world of information. Start treating your plans, your progress, your preparations as strategic assets to be protected. Learn to find satisfaction in silent achievement rather than public validation. When others ask about your plans, be general in your responses. When they inquire about your progress, be vague in your answers. When they seek to understand your strategy, be ambiguous in your explanation, not out of fear or insecurity, but out of strategic wisdom. Let your results speak where your words do not. Let your achievements shock those who never saw them coming. Let your success surprise those who were watching for signs of your progress. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Remember, the most powerful moves are the ones no one sees coming. The most effective strategies are the ones no one knows about until they are already successful. The greatest victories are the ones that seem to happen without effort, without warning, without announcement. Plan in silence. Move in shadows. Strike with surprise. This is how lasting victories are achieved. This is how true power is built. This is how strategic mastery is demonstrated. Every battle is fought on terrain. Every conflict unfolds in an environment. Every strategy must account for the ground on which it will be executed. This is not just true in warfare, It is true in every aspect of life. The question is, do you truly understand the terrain on which you are fighting? Listen carefully, for this principle will determine your success or failure in any endeavor. The master strategist does not just operate in an environment, they understand it completely. They know every advantage it offers, every challenge it presents, every opportunity it contains. Think about the world you operate in right now. Your career, that is terrain. Your relationships, that is terrain. Your daily routine, that is terrain. Your mind, that is terrain. Each has its own features, its own rules, its own strategic implications. Each must be mastered differently. Most people stumble through their terrain blindly. They never take the time to truly understand the ground they're fighting on. They don't study the landscape of their industry. They don't map the territory of their relationships. They don't explore the geography of their own habits and patterns. This ignorance is strategic suicide. Every piece of terrain you don't understand is a potential trap. Every environmental factor you haven't considered is a possible point of failure. Every aspect of your battleground that you ignore is an advantage you surrender to your opponents. Let me teach you how to master any terrain. First, you must observe. Not casually, not superficially, but with the deep attention of a strategic warrior. What are the high grounds in this environment? The positions of advantage? What are the bottlenecks, the points of constraint? Where are the resources concentrated? Where are the dangers hidden? In business, the terrain might be market conditions, competitor positions, regulatory environments. In relationships, it might be personal dynamics, emotional patterns, communication styles. In personal development, it might be habits, routines, environmental triggers. Each terrain has its own strategic features that must be identified and understood, but observation is only the beginning. You must learn to read the terrain dynamically, to understand not just how it is, but how it changes. Every environment has its cycles, its patterns, its rhythms. The weather changes, the seasons turn, markets shift, people evolve. The strategic warrior understands these dynamics and plans accordingly. Consider this. In any given terrain, there are permanent features and temporary conditions. The mountain doesn't move, but the weather on it changes constantly. The same is true in life. There are fixed realities you must adapt to, and there are temporary circumstances you can wait out or take advantage of. This is why the master strategist is never caught off guard. They have studied their terrain so completely that they know what is possible and what is not. They know where they can move quickly and where they must move carefully. They know where they can fight and where they must avoid conflict. But here is what most fail to grasp. Mastering terrain is not just about avoiding its dangers, it's about harnessing its power. Every feature of your environment can be turned to advantage if you understand it deeply enough. Every constraint can become an opportunity if you know how to use it strategically. Think about water. On flat ground, it spreads out uselessly, but channel it through a narrow gorge, and it becomes powerful enough to carve through stone. The same principle applies to any resource, any effort, any strategy. The terrain can either dissipate your power or multiply it. The difference lies in your understanding and usage of it. This is why you must become a student of your environment. You must study the terrain of your life with the same dedication. A general studies a battlefield. You must know where the paths lead, where the obstacles lie, where the opportunities hide. You must understand not just the obvious features, but the subtle ones that others miss. Remember this: the greatest strategies fail when they ignore terrain. The most powerful forces become useless when they fight against their environment instead of working with it. The most carefully laid plans collapse when they don't account for the ground on which they must be executed. So I challenge you, begin to study your terrain more carefully. Start mapping the environment of your life with strategic awareness. Where are the positions of advantage in your current situation? Where are the dangers? Where are the opportunities that others have missed because they fail to understand the terrain. Look for patterns in your environment. What cycles affect your terrain? What changes can you predict? What conditions remain constant? This knowledge is power, but only if you gather it systematically and apply it strategically. Most importantly, learn to adapt your strategy to your terrain, not the other way around. The foolish warrior tries to force their preferred tactics onto unsuitables ground. The wise warrior shapes their strategy to match their environment, using every feature to their advantage. This is the way of the strategic warrior, to know their terrain so completely that every step is sure, every move is calculated, every position is chosen with full awareness of its strategic implications. This is how you turn your environment from an obstacle into an asset, from a challenge into an advantage. Master your terrain, and you master your destiny. This is not just a principle of strategy. It is a law of life. There is a force more powerful than strength, more decisive than numbers, more crucial than any weapon or resource. This force is timing. The greatest strategist in history with poor timing will fail. The weakest player with perfect timing will succeed. This is the law that governs all conflicts, all opportunities, all victories. Listen carefully, for I am about to share with you the most crucial element of strategic mastery. It is not enough to know what to do. It is not enough to know how to do it. You must know when to do it. Timing is the difference between a strike that changes everything and a strike that wastes your strength. Think about this truth. The same action performed at different moments produces entirely different results. A seed planted too early dies in frost. Planted too late, it withers in heat. But planted at exactly the right moment, it flourishes. Your strategies, your decisions, your moves, they are no different. Most people understand this principle. Superficially, they know timing matters, but they don't study it. They don't master it. They rely on intuition, or worse, they rush forward with impatience, believing that faster is always better. This is the strategy of amateurs. The master strategist understands that timing has its own patterns, its own rhythms, its own laws. They study these patterns with the same dedication others give to techniques or tactics. They know that perfect execution at the wrong moment is just as useless as poor execution at the right moment. Consider the waves of the ocean. Try to fight against them, and they will exhaust you. Try to swim at the wrong moment, and they will overwhelm you. But understand their rhythm. Time your movements to their flow, and they will carry you effortlessly to your destination. This is how timing works in all things. But here is what most fail to grasp. Perfect timing is not just about waiting for the right moment. It's about preparing for it. While others wait passively, the strategic warrior uses waiting time to build strength, gather resources, improve position. Then, when the moment arrives, they are ready to seize it with full force. Think about the archer. The moment of release is crucial, yes. But what makes that moment powerful is all the preparation that came before it, the stance, the draw, the aim. Timing is not just about the final action. It's about the entire sequence that leads to that action. This principle applies to every aspect of strategic life. In business, the perfect product launched at the wrong time fails. In relationships, the right words spoken at the wrong moment damage rather than heal. In personal development, the most powerful changes happen when internal readiness meets external opportunity. Learn to read the signs of timing in your environment. Every situation has its moments of opportunity, its windows of advantage, its periods of vulnerability. The strategic warrior learns to recognize these moments before they arrive, prepare for them before they open, and act decisively when they appear. But remember this, good timing often looks like patience to those who don't understand strategy. When others rush, the strategic warrior waits. When others retreat, the strategic warrior prepares. When others act from impatience, the strategic warrior remains still, knowing that the right moment multiplies the power of any action. This is not passive waiting. It is strategic preparation. Every moment you are not acting should be used to improve your position, strengthen your resources, sharpen your awareness. Then, when the moment of opportunity arrives, you can strike with the accumulated power of all your preparation. Understanding. Timing requires you to master multiple time frames simultaneously. You must see the immediate moment, the near future, and the distant horizon. You must understand how actions in one time frame affect opportunities in another. This is how you begin to shape timing itself, not just react to it. Consider how many opportunities are lost through poor timing, how many advantages are wasted through premature action, how many victories are surrendered through delay. This is why timing must be studied as carefully as any other aspect of strategy. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to strike and times to hold, times to advance and times to withdraw, times to reveal strength and times to appear weak. The mastery lies not in knowing these distinctions exist, but in recognizing exactly when each moment arrives. So I challenge you. Begin to study timing in your own life. Start noticing the rhythms of your environment, the patterns of opportunity, the cycles of advantage and disadvantage. When do opportunities tend to appear in your field? When do resources become available? When do opponents become vulnerable? Learn to recognize the difference between strategic waiting and fearful hesitation, between patient preparation and passive procrastination, between timely action and impulsive reaction. This discernment is crucial to mastering timing as a strategic weapon. Most importantly, understand that timing is not something that happens to you. It is something you can influence and eventually control. Through careful observation, strategic positioning, and patient preparation, you can create moments of opportunity rather than merely waiting for them. Remember, the perfect strategy executed at the wrong moment will fail. The simplest action performed at exactly the right moment will succeed. This is the power of timing. This is the secret weapon of the strategic warrior. This is the key to victory in any endeavor. Master timing and you master the outcome of every conflict, every opportunity, every challenge. This is not just a principle of strategy, it is the fundamental law of achievement. In every moment of conflict, in every situation of challenge, there exists a truth that separates the master strategist from the amateur. The one who controls their response controls the entire field of battle. This is not a metaphor. It is the fundamental law of strategic engagement. Listen carefully, for what I am about to share with you will transform how you approach every confrontation, every challenge, every moment of pressure in your life. When others yell and you stay quiet, that is not weakness, that is power. When others panic and you remain calm, that is not passivity, that is dominance. When others react and you respond with deliberation, that is not slowness, that is strategic mastery. Think about this. In any given situation, the person who loses control of their response has already lost the battle, even if they don't know it yet. They have surrendered their strategic position to their emotions, their tactical advantage to their impulses, their victory to their reactions. Most people never grasp this essential truth. They believe that control means dominating others, forcing situations, manipulating circumstances. But the master strategist understands that true control begins with absolute dominion over one's own responses. Everything else flows from this fundamental principle. Consider this carefully. Every time someone provokes a reaction from you, they gain a measure of control over you. Every time you respond impulsively, you surrender your strategic position. Every time you let others dictate your emotional state, you give them power over your tactical choices. But here's where the opportunity lies. When you maintain control over your responses, you force others to play on your strategic terrain. When you refuse to react as they expect, you disrupt their tactical calculations. When you respond with calm deliberation to their emotional provocations, you demonstrate a power that no aggressive action can match. The strategic warrior understands that response control is not just about maintaining composure. It's about maintaining strategic advantage. Think of it this way. Every response is a move on the strategic board. Every reaction is a position taken or surrendered. Every moment of emotional control or loss becomes a tactical reality that shapes the entire field of engagement. This principle extends far beyond obvious confrontations. In business negotiations, the one who maintains emotional equilibrium holds the superior position. In personal relationships, the one who can respond rather than react shapes the dynamic. In any competitive environment, the one who controls their responses ultimately controls the outcome. But understand this, control does not mean suppression. It does not mean becoming an emotionless automaton. It means channeling your emotional energy strategically rather than letting it dictate your actions. It means choosing your responses rather than being driven by them. Think about the last time you lost control of your response in a crucial moment. What advantage did you surrender? What position did you weaken? What opportunity did you miss? This is not about blame. It is about strategic awareness. Every loss of control is a lesson in the importance of response mastery. The master strategist knows that there are times when an emotional response appears appropriate, but even then, it must be a chosen response, not a reactive one. Even apparent loss of control, when strategic, must be controlled. This is the subtle art of response manipulation. Consider how many battles are won or lost in the moment of provocation. How many victories are secured not through superior strength or resources, but through superior response control. How many conflicts are decided not by what happens, but by how each party responds to what happens. This is why the strategic warrior trains in response control with the same dedication others give to external skills. They understand that the ability to maintain tactical clarity under pressure, to choose responses rather than be driven by reactions, to remain strategically sound when others lose their composure. These are not just useful skills, they are the fundamental requirements of strategic mastery. So I challenge you, begin to observe your responses with strategic awareness. Start noticing the moments when you react rather than respond. Pay attention to the situations that trigger automatic responses rather than chosen ones. These are not just psychological patterns, they are strategic vulnerabilities. Learn to create space between stimulus and response. This space is where strategic power lives. In that gap between what happens and how you respond, you find the power to shape outcomes, the ability to maintain tactical advantage, the opportunity to demonstrate true strategic mastery. Most importantly, understand that response control is not just about what you don't do, it's about what you choose to do instead. Every controlled response should serve your strategic purpose. Every maintained composure should strengthen your tactical position. Every moment of restraint should advance your overall campaign. Remember this, the one who can stay calm when others panic, remain clear when others become confused, maintain strategic focus when others lose their way. That person controls not just themselves, but the entire field of engagement. This is not just a principle of personal discipline. It is the key to strategic dominance. Control your response, and you control far more than just yourself. You control the dynamic of every engagement, the outcome of every encounter, the result of every strategic interaction. This is the path to true power. This is the way of the strategic warrior. In the realm of strategic mastery, there exists a principle so powerful that it alone can determine the outcome of any campaign, the art of concealing your true intentions. Listen carefully, for what I am about to share with you is not deception. It is the highest form of strategic wisdom. Consider this fundamental truth. The moment your intentions become clear, your strategic advantage begins to erode. The instant your opponents can read your purpose, they can begin to counter your moves. When your goals become obvious, resistance becomes inevitable. Most people misunderstand this principle entirely. They think concealment means lying, that strategic ambiguity means dishonesty. But the master strategist understands that disguising intentions is not about deceit. It is about maintaining strategic freedom of movement. Think about the difference between a poker player who bluffs and one who maintains an unreadable expression. One is actively deceiving, the other is simply preserving their strategic position by revealing nothing. This is the difference between deception and strategic concealment. The strategic warrior understands that every revealed intention is a constraint on future action. Every declared goal is a limitation on tactical flexibility. Every announced plan is an invitation for opposition to form. This is why the wise remain inscrutable, why the powerful remain unreadable, why the successful remain mysterious in their movements. But here is what most fail to grasp. Concealing your intentions is not just about hiding your goals, it's about maintaining multiple possible interpretations of your actions. The master strategist moves in such a way that any single move could serve multiple purposes. Every action contains multiple possibilities. Consider how nature itself teaches this principle. The tiger's stripes are not deception, they are strategic concealment that preserves the advantage of surprise. The chameleon's changing colors are not lies, they are tactical adaptations that maintain strategic position. This is the model for strategic concealment. Think about how many opportunities are lost through premature revelation of intention, how many advantages are surrendered through unnecessary transparency, how many victories are forfeited because opposition was given time to organize against clearly stated goals. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to be clear and times to be ambiguous, times to reveal direction and times to maintain mystery, times to declare purpose and times to preserve uncertainty. The mastery lies in knowing which is which, and having the discipline to maintain strategic concealment until the moment of advantage. But understand this, strategic concealment requires more than just silence about your intentions. It requires the ability to move in ways that could serve multiple purposes, to take positions that could support different objectives, to maintain a presence that could indicate various possibilities. This is why the master strategist often appears to drift while actually pursuing a precise course, why they seem to wander while moving directly toward their goal, why they appear to be doing one thing while accomplishing another. This is not deception, it is strategic artistry. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the company that broadcasts its every move allows competitors to position against them. In personal development, the person who announces every goal creates resistance to their own progress. In any competitive environment, the player who reveals their strategy invites its defeat. Most importantly, understand that strategic concealment is not just about hiding your end goal, it's about obscuring the path you're taking to reach it. Even when the destination becomes clear, the route should remain uncertain. This preserves tactical flexibility and maintains strategic advantage. Think carefully about this. Every time you feel compelled to explain your intentions, ask yourself, is this revelation strategically necessary? Every time you're tempted to announce your plans, consider, does this transparency serve your ultimate purpose? Every time you want to clarify your position, evaluate, does this clarity enhance or diminish your strategic advantage? The strategic warrior knows that there is power in mystery, strength in ambiguity, advantage in inscrutability, not because these things deceive, but because they preserve strategic options. They maintain tactical flexibility. They keep opponents uncertain and therefore reactive rather than proactive. So I challenge you. Begin to move more carefully in the realm of intentions. Start treating your goals, your plans, your strategic objectives as precious resources to be protected. Learn to find comfort in strategic ambiguity rather than seeking the false security of complete transparency. Remember this, The most powerful moves are often the ones whose true purpose remains unclear until they have already succeeded. The most effective strategies are often those whose real objective is not apparent until it is already achieved. The greatest victories often come from directions that no one thought to defend against. This is not about becoming deceptive. It is about becoming strategically sophisticated. Not about hiding the truth, but about preserving strategic advantage. Not about misleading others, but about maintaining tactical freedom. Disguise your intentions not to deceive, but to succeed. Maintain strategic ambiguity, not to confuse, but to preserve options. Keep your purposes private, not to mislead, but to maintain advantage. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to strategic mastery. There exists a profound truth in strategic warfare that most will never understand. Defense is not retreat, and attack is not aggression. Listen carefully, for I'm about to share with you the secret of true strategic power, the ability to defend without fear and attack without anger. Consider this fundamental principle. The moment fear enters your defense, you have already begun to lose. The instant anger fuels your attack, you have already surrendered strategic control. These emotions are not power. They're leaks in your strategic foundation. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of defense and attack. They think defense means weakness, that attack means strength. They believe that fear makes defense more alert, that anger makes attacks more powerful. This is the thinking of amateurs, not strategists. The master strategist understands that true defense is not a fearful reaction to threat. It is a calculated position of strategic advantage. True attack is not an angry surge forward. It is a precise movement towards strategic objective. Both must be executed with complete emotional clarity. Think about this carefully. When fear enters your defense, what happens? You become reactive rather than strategic. You surrender initiative. You begin to move based on your opponent's actions rather than your own strategic purpose. This is not defense. This is gradual defeat. And when anger drives your attack, what occurs? You become blind to opportunity. You lose strategic perspective. You commit resources based on emotional need rather than tactical advantage. This is not attack. This is strategic suicide. The strategic warrior knows that defense and attack are not opposite actions. They are complementary positions on the same strategic spectrum. Sometimes the strongest attack is a well-planned defense. Sometimes the most effective defense is a precisely timed attack. The key is maintaining clarity in both. Consider how nature demonstrates this principle. The tiger defending its territory shows no fear. It demonstrates calculated positioning. The eagle attacking its prey shows no anger. It exhibits precise execution. This is the model for strategic action. But here is what most fail to grasp. Defending without fear doesn't mean being fearless. It means channeling concern into strategic awareness rather than emotional reaction. Attacking without anger doesn't mean being emotionless. It means directing energy into tactical precision rather than emotional force. Think about how many defensive positions are compromised by fear. How many attacks are wasted through anger. How many strategic advantages are surrendered because emotion replaced calculation at crucial moments. This is why emotional mastery is not just psychological practice. It is strategic necessity. The master strategist understands that every defense should strengthen your position. Every attack should advance your strategy. Neither should be reactive. Neither should be emotional. Both should be calculated moves in your larger strategic campaign. Consider this truth. The strongest defense is one that appears so natural that it doesn't look like defense at all. The most effective attack is one so precisely executed that it appears inevitable rather than aggressive. This level of strategic clarity is only possible when emotion is removed from the equation. But understand, this is not about suppressing emotion. It is about transcending it. When you defend without fear, you maintain complete tactical awareness. When you attack without anger, You preserve full strategic vision. This is how single moves become game-changing actions. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to hold position and times to advance, times to fortify and times to strike, times to absorb and times to project. The mastery lies not in knowing these distinctions exist, but in executing each with complete strategic clarity. Think carefully about your own patterns. When you defend, do you do so from strategic choice or fearful reaction? When you attack, do you move from calculated advantage or emotional impulse? These are not just tactical questions. They are strategic determinants. Most importantly, understand that removing emotion from defense and attack doesn't make them weaker. It makes them more powerful. A defense executed from strategic calculation, rather than fear, is unshakable. An attack launched from tactical advantage rather than anger is unstoppable. So I challenge you, begin to observe your defensive and offensive positions with new awareness. Start noticing when fear creeps into your defensive choices, when anger colors your offensive moves. These are not just emotional states, they are strategic vulnerabilities. Learn to defend from a position of strategic choice rather than emotional necessity. Learn to attack from a place of tactical advantage rather than emotional drive. This is not just about emotional control, it is about strategic superiority. Remember this: the one who can defend without fear has already won half the battle. The one who can attack without anger has already secured half the victory. When you can do both, defend with strategic clarity and attack with tactical precision, you become truly unbeatable. This is not just a principle of combat. It is a fundamental law of strategic engagement. Whether in business, in relationships, in personal development, or in any competitive environment, the ability to defend without fear and attack without anger is what separates the master strategist from the amateur tactician. Master this principle, and you master not just conflict, but the very nature of strategic interaction. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. There exists in strategic warfare a principle so powerful yet so misunderstood that mastering it alone can transform defeat into victory: the art of strategic delay. Listen carefully, for what I am about to share with you is not about procrastination or hesitation. It is about the masterful use of time as a weapon. Consider this truth that most will never grasp. You do not have to engage in every battle presented to you. You do not have to seize every opportunity the moment it appears. You do not have to respond to every provocation when it occurs. Sometimes the greatest power lies in the strategic choice to wait. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of delay. They see it as weakness, as indecision, as fear of action. But the master strategist understands that strategic delay is not the absence of action. It is a powerful action in itself. It is not passive waiting, it is active preparation. Think about this carefully. When others rush forward, consumed by the urgency of now, the strategic warrior can choose to wait. This is not surrender, it is dominance. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strategic strength. This is the power to choose the moment of engagement. The strategic warrior understands that timing is a weapon more powerful than any resource, any position, any advantage. And sometimes the perfect timing requires the wisdom to delay, to wait, to let situations develop, to let opponents reveal themselves, to let opportunities ripen. But here is what most fail to grasp. Strategic delay is not just about waiting, it's about waiting with purpose. Every moment of delay should strengthen your position. Every period of waiting should improve your strategic situation. Every instance of patience should serve your ultimate objective. Consider how nature itself teaches this principle. The spider does not chase its prey. It builds its web and waits. The lion does not attack at first sight. It studies, positions, and chooses its moment. This is not hesitation. This is strategic mastery. Think about how many battles are lost through premature engagement. How many opportunities are wasted through hasty action. How many advantages are surrendered because of the inability to delay gratification, to wait for the perfect moment, to exercise strategic patience? The master strategist knows that there are times to act swiftly and times to delay deliberately, times to seize the moment and times to let the moment develop, times to strike immediately and times to wait for strategic advantage. The wisdom lies in knowing which is which. But understand this: strategic delay requires more than just the ability to wait. It requires the strength to resist pressure, the pressure to act now, the pressure to respond immediately, the pressure to seize every opportunity. This resistance is not passive. It is a form of strategic power. Consider this truth: every premature action is a strategic advantage surrendered. Every hasty response is a position weakened. Every impulsive move is an opportunity given to your opponents. This is why strategic delay is not just an option. It is often a necessity. The strategic warrior understands that delay can be used to force opponents into error, to make them reveal their intentions, to cause them to waste their resources, to lead them into positions of disadvantage. This is how patience becomes a weapon. Think carefully about this. When you choose to delay, you force others to show theirs hand first. You maintain your strategic flexibility while they commit to positions. You preserve your resources while they expend theirs. This is not inaction. This is strategic dominance. Most importantly, understand that strategic delay is not about avoiding conflict or escaping challenges. It is about choosing the optimal conditions for engagement, about ensuring that when you do act, you do so from a position of maximum advantage. So, I challenge you. Begin to see delay as a strategic option, not just as a default when you're uncertain. Start recognizing the power of purposeful waiting. Learn to distinguish between fearful hesitation and strategic patience. These are not just philosophical distinctions. They are tactical realities. Learn to resist the urge for immediate action. Train yourself to evaluate whether now is truly the optimal moment for engagement. Develop the strength to wait when waiting serves your strategy, even when others pressure you to act. Remember this: the one who can delay without anxiety, wait without weakness, and hold position without fear, that person controls not just their actions, but the entire temporal dimension of strategic engagement. This is not just about timing, it is about temporal dominance. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the company that can wait for the right moment often succeeds where hasty competitors fail. In personal development, the person who can delay gratification often achieves what impulsive strivers miss. In any competitive environment, the player who can exercise strategic patience often prevails over those who cannot resist immediate action. This is why the master strategist trains in patience with the same dedication others give to active skills. They understand that the ability to delay strategically, to wait purposefully, to hold position powerfully, these are not just useful abilities, they are fundamental requirements of strategic mastery. Master the power of strategic delay, and you master not just timing, but the very nature of strategic advantage. This is not just a principle of warfare. It is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. There exists a level of strategic mastery so profound that it appears almost mystical to those who don't understand it. The ability to predict your opponent's moves before they themselves have decided to make them. Listen carefully. For what I am about to share with you is not about prophecy or fortune-telling. It is about the deepest level of strategic understanding. Consider this fundamental truth. Every action has its roots in patterns. Every decision emerges from habits. Every move is preceded by indicators that most fail to notice. The master strategist sees these patterns, reads these habits, recognizes these indicators, while others remain blind to them. Most people believe that predicting others' actions requires some form of supernatural insight. But the strategic warrior understands that prediction is not about guessing. It is about observing with such depth and clarity that the future becomes visible in the present. Think about this carefully. People are not as unpredictable as they believe themselves to be. They follow patterns, they repeat behaviors, they respond to similar situations in consistent ways. The key is not in trying to read minds, it's in learning to read patterns. The strategic warrior knows that every person, every organization, every system has its own signature way of moving, its own rhythms of action and reaction, its own cycles of decision and response. These patterns are like fingerprints, unique to each entity, but consistently present in everything they do. But here's what most fail to grasp. Predictive mastery is not just about observing patterns, it's about understanding the deeper forces that create those patterns. Why do people make the choices they make? What drives their decisions? What shapes their responses? Consider how nature demonstrates this principle. The experienced farmer can predict weather not through magic, but through deep observation of patterns. The skilled hunter can predict animal movements not through guesswork, but through intimate knowledge of behavior. This is the model for strategic prediction. Think about how many advantages are gained through predictive insight. How many victories are secured by moving first to counter an action that hasn't yet occurred? How many opportunities are seized by preparing for situations before they develop? This is why predictive ability is not just useful, it is strategically essential. The master strategist understands that prediction operates on multiple levels. There is the immediate level. What will they do next? The tactical level. How will they respond to this situation? The strategic level. Where are they ultimately trying to go? Each level requires its own type of observation and analysis. But understand this. Predictive mastery requires more than just observation. It requires systematic analysis. You must study not just what people do, but when they do it. Not just how they move, but why they move. Not just their actions, but the context that triggers those actions. Consider this truth. Most people telegraph their future actions long before they take them, through their preparations, through their positioning, through their patterns of behavior. The key is learning to read these signals while others miss them entirely. The strategic warrior knows that there are patterns within patterns. Surface. Behaviors that hint at deeper intentions. Small actions that indicate larger movements. Subtle shifts that precede major changes. Learning to read these layers of meaning is what transforms observation into prediction. Think carefully about this. When you can predict moves before they're made, you change the entire dynamic of any engagement. You force others to play on your strategic terrain. You maintain initiative while they remain reactive. You shape situations while they respond to them. Most importantly, understand that predictive ability isn't about being right every time. It's about understanding probabilities so deeply that you can prepare for likely movements before they occur. It's about reducing uncertainty through deep pattern recognition. So I challenge you, begin to observe the world around you with new strategic awareness. Start noticing the patterns in people's behaviors, the rhythms in their decisions, the cycles in their actions. These are not just random occurrences, they are strategic indicators. Learn to ask deeper questions about what you observe. Why did they make that choice? What patterns led to that decision? What factors influenced that response? This is not just curiosity, it is strategic analysis. Remember this. The one who can predict movements before they occur, who can see patterns before they fully emerge, who can understand intentions before they become actions, that person holds the ultimate strategic advantage. This is not just about foresight, it is about strategic dominance. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the company that can predict market movements succeeds where reactive competitors fail. In relationships, the person who can anticipate needs strengthens bonds, while others struggle to maintain them. In any competitive environment, the player who can read the game ahead of time prevails over those who can only respond to what's happening now. This is why the master strategist trains in pattern recognition with the same dedication others give to reactive skills. They understand that the ability to predict, to anticipate, to foresee. These are not just helpful abilities. They are the foundations of strategic mastery. Master the art of prediction, and you master not just the future, but the very nature of strategic advantage. This is not just a principle of warfare. It is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Listen carefully to this essential truth of strategic mastery. If they cannot read you, they cannot predict you. If they cannot predict you, they cannot stop you. This is not about deception. It is about becoming as formless as water, as ungraspable as wind, as mysterious as the deepest shadows. Consider this fundamental principle. The moment others can read your patterns, they gain power over your movements. The instant they can predict your responses, they can manipulate your actions. When they understand your tendencies, they can set traps in your path. This is why becoming unreadable is not just an advantage, it is a strategic necessity. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of being unreadable. They think it means maintaining a blank expression, or never revealing emotions, or always being mysterious. But the master strategist understands that true unreadability is far more profound. It is about becoming strategically unpredictable while appearing utterly natural. Think about this carefully. When you become truly unreadable, you force others to operate in a state of constant uncertainty. They cannot plan effectively against what they cannot predict. They cannot counter what they cannot read. They cannot defeat what they cannot understand. The strategic warrior knows that unreadability must exist on multiple levels simultaneously. Physical unreadability, where your body language reveals nothing. Emotional unreadability, where your reactions cannot be predicted. Strategic unreadability, where your patterns cannot be discerned. Each level reinforces the others. But here is what most fail to grasp. Being unreadable doesn't mean being rigid or artificial. The highest form of unreadability looks completely natural, like water that can take any form while remaining essentially formless, like wind that can move in any direction while leaving no trace of its path. Consider how nature teaches this principle. The octopus changes not just its color, but its entire texture to become unreadable to predators. The forest shifts its patterns constantly, revealing nothing while constantly moving. This is the model for strategic unreadability. Think about how many advantages are surrendered through readable patterns. How many opportunities are lost through predictable responses? How many defeats occur because opponents could read intentions before actions even began? This is why unreadability is not just a tactic, it is a fundamental strategic requirement. The master strategist understands that becoming unreadable requires systematic elimination of patterns, not by becoming robotic or expressionless, but by developing such flexibility that no fixed pattern ever emerges, no consistent rhythm that can be predicted, no regular response that can be exploited. But understand this, true unreadability requires more than just concealment. It requires the ability to show exactly what you choose to show, when you choose to show it. Sometimes being unreadable means appearing completely transparent. Sometimes it means seeming entirely predictable while actually maintaining complete strategic freedom. Consider this truth. Every fixed pattern is a vulnerability. Every consistent response is a weakness. Every readable tendency is a door through which opponents can enter your strategic domain. This is why the master strategist constantly varies their patterns, shifts their rhythms, changes their responses. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to be clear and times to be mysterious, times to be predictable and times to be unfathomable, times to be readable and times to be completely inscrutable. The mastery lies in choosing which to be, rather than being forced into any fixed pattern. Think carefully about this. When you become truly unreadable, you gain the power to shape how others respond to you. You can appear weak when you are strong, appear strong when you are waiting, appear confused when you are actually in complete strategic control. Most importantly, understand that unreadability is not about maintaining constant mystery. It's about maintaining complete strategic freedom, the freedom to move in any direction, the freedom to change approach without warning, the freedom to shift strategy without revealing intention. So I challenge you, begin to examine your patterns with strategic awareness. Start noticing your habitual responses, your regular rhythms, your predictable reactions. These are not just habits, they are strategic vulnerabilities waiting to be exploited. Learn to vary your responses even to identical situations. Train yourself to break patterns before they become readable. Develop the ability to shift approaches without telegraphing. The change. This is not just about being mysterious. It is about becoming strategically sovereign. Remember this, the one who can remain unreadable while reading others, who can stay unpredictable while predicting their opponents, who can maintain mystery while creating clarity in their enemies, that person becomes truly unstoppable. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the company that remains strategically unreadable can move without telegraphing its intentions. In negotiations, the person who stays unpredictable maintains leverage while others reveal their positions. In any competitive environment, the player who cannot be read controls the field of play. This is why the master strategist trains in pattern disruption with the same dedication others give to pattern mastery. They understand that the ability to remain unreadable, to stay unpredictable, to maintain strategic mystery, these are not just useful skills, they are the foundations of unstoppable power. Master the art of unreadability, and you master not just your opponent's perception, but the very nature of strategic advantage. This is not just a principle of warfare. It is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Listen carefully to this vital truth. Just as a warrior's blade must be sharp, balanced, and ready for any challenge, your mind must be honed to a razor's edge of strategic clarity. This is not metaphor. It is the fundamental requirement of strategic mastery. Consider this essential principle. A dull blade, no matter how expensive, no matter how ornate, is useless in battle. Similarly, an untrained mind, regardless of its natural intelligence, regardless of its potential, will fail in moments of strategic challenge. This is why mental training is not optional. It is the foundation of all strategic success. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of mental training. They think it means accumulating information or memorizing tactics or learning techniques. But the master strategist understands that true mental training is about forging your mind into a weapon that remains sharp under any conditions. Think about this carefully. Just as a sword must be repeatedly heated, hammered, and cooled to achieve its strength, your mind must be systematically challenged, tested, and refined to develop its strategic power. There are no shortcuts. There are no easy paths. There is only the discipline of consistent training. The strategic warrior knows that mental training must address multiple aspects simultaneously. Focus, the ability to maintain complete concentration on strategic objectives. Clarity, the power to see situations without emotional distortion. Flexibility, the capacity to adapt thinking to changing conditions. Each element must be deliberately developed, but here is what most fail to grasp. Mental training is not just about developing capabilities, it's about eliminating vulnerabilities. Just as a blade must be free of flaws to withstand pressure, your mind must be cleared of weaknesses that could shatter under strategic stress. Consider how a master swordsmith approaches their craft. Every heating removes impurities. Every hammering strengthens the metal. Every cooling sets the structure. This is the model for strategic mental development. Every challenge should purify your thinking. Every test should strengthen your resolve. Every reflection should set your understanding. Think about how many battles are lost through mental weakness. How many opportunities are missed through lack of focus. How many advantages are surrendered because the mind was not sharp enough to see them. This is why mental training is not just preparation. It is strategic necessity. The master strategist understands that the mind must be trained in layers. The surface level, where immediate tactical thinking occurs. The middle level, where strategic planning takes shape. The deep level, where fundamental principles reside. Each layer must be developed with specific disciplines, but understand this. Mental training requires more than just practice. It requires the right kind of practice. Just as a blade is not sharpened by casual use, but by deliberate honing, your mind is not trained by random experience, but by systematic challenge. Consider this truth. Every moment of mental laziness is a potential defeat waiting to happen. Every gap in focus is a vulnerability in your strategic position. Every lack of clarity is a weakness that opponents can exploit. This is why the warrior trains their mind with the same dedication they would give to any crucial weapon. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to strain the mind and times to let it rest, times to focus intensely and times to reflect quietly, times to challenge assumptions and times to reinforce foundations. The mastery lies in knowing which is needed and having the discipline to maintain the training regardless of circumstances. Think carefully about this. When you train your mind systematically, you develop capabilities that others might view as supernatural. The ability to maintain perfect focus under pressure, the power to see opportunities that others miss entirely, the capacity to think clearly when others become confused. Most importantly, understand that mental training is not about reaching a destination, it's about continuous refinement. Just as a blade must be regularly maintained to keep its edge, your mind must be consistently challenged to maintain its strategic sharpness. So I challenge you, begin to approach your mental development with the same seriousness a warrior gives to their weapons. Start implementing systematic training rather than hoping random experience will be enough. Develop specific practices that target each aspect of strategic thinking. Learn to recognize the difference between mental activity and mental training, between information gathering and strategic development, between casual thinking and deliberate strengthening. These are not just philosophical distinctions, they are practical necessities. Remember this, the one who trains their mind systematically, who maintains their strategic edge deliberately, who develops their mental capabilities consistently, that person becomes an unstoppable force in any domain of conflict. Consider how this principle applies in every aspect of strategic life. In business, the leader with a trained mind sees opportunities others miss entirely. In personal development, the individual with developed mental clarity achieves what others believe impossible. In any competitive environment, the player with superior mental discipline prevails over those with mere natural talent. This is why the master strategist approaches mental training with the same dedication a swordsman gives to their blade. They understand that the ability to think clearly, to focus completely, to adapt instantly, these are not just helpful skills. They are the fundamental requirements of strategic mastery. Master the art of mental training, and you master not just your own capabilities, but the very nature of strategic advantage. This is not just a principle of self-development. It is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. There exists a state of strategic perfection that few ever achieve, yet all must strive for: the complete alignment of mind, will, and action. Listen carefully, for what I am about to share with you is not just about coordination, it is about achieving a state of unified power that makes you virtually unstoppable. Consider this fundamental truth. Any disconnect between your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions is not just inefficiency. It is strategic weakness. When mind plans one thing, but will hesitates. When will desires one path, but action takes another. When action moves, but mind hasn't fully committed, these gaps become points of failure under pressure. Most people operate in a state of constant internal division. Their mind thinks one way, their will pulls another, their actions follow yet another path. But the master strategist understands that true power comes only when all three elements move as one, like a perfectly forged weapon striking with single purpose. Think about this carefully. When mind, will, and action align perfectly, something extraordinary happens. Movement becomes effortless. Decisions become instant. Power flows without resistance. This is not mystical. It is the natural result of achieving complete internal strategic unity. The strategic warrior knows that this alignment must be developed on multiple levels. Tactical alignment, where immediate thoughts, intentions, and actions work together. Strategic alignment, where long-term vision, commitment, and execution flow as one. Each level reinforces the others, but here is what most fail to grasp. Alignment is not just about coordination. It's about elimination of internal conflict. Every moment your mind doubts while your will pushes forward. Every time your will commits but your actions hesitate. Every instance where your actions move without full mental clarity. These are all moments of power lost. Consider how nature demonstrates this principle. The striking snake has no gap between decision and action. The soaring eagle shows no separation between intention and movement. This is the model for strategic unity, complete integration of thought, will, and deed. Think about how many opportunities are lost through internal division. How many advantages are surrendered through hesitation between thought and action? How many victories are missed because mind, will, and action were not moving as one? This is why alignment is not just helpful. It is strategically essential. The master strategist understands that achieving this alignment requires systematic elimination of internal barriers, not by forcing cooperation, but by removing the sources of conflict. Not by demanding unity, but by creating conditions where unity naturally emerges. But understand this. True alignment requires more than just discipline. It requires deep self-knowledge. You must understand your own patterns of disconnect. Where does your mind typically separate from your will? Where does your will typically diverge from your actions? These are not just psychological questions. They are strategic vulnerabilities. Consider this truth. Every moment of internal alignment is a moment of maximum power. Every instance of perfect coordination between thought, intention, and action is an opportunity for decisive victory. Every time you achieve this unity, you become momentarily unstoppable. The strategic warrior knows that there are times for deliberate action and times for instant response, times for careful coordination, and times for immediate unity, times for planned movement, and times for intuitive flow. The mastery lies in achieving alignment in each condition. Think carefully about this. When you move with perfect internal alignment, you generate a power that others find difficult to comprehend, not because it's supernatural, but because it's so rare to encounter someone operating with complete strategic unity. Most importantly, understand that alignment is not a fixed state to be achieved once. It is a dynamic condition that must be constantly maintained. Like a complex machine whose parts must work in perfect coordination, your mind, will, and actions must be continuously synchronized. So I challenge you, begin to observe the gaps between your thoughts, intentions, and actions. Start noticing where disconnects occur. When does your mind plan one thing, but your will hesitates? When does your will commit, but your actions falter? These are not just observations, they are opportunities for strategic improvement. Learn to recognize the feeling of perfect alignment when it occurs. Study the conditions that create it. Practice maintaining it under increasingly challenging circumstances. This is not just exercise, it is essential strategic development. Remember this: the one who can maintain perfect alignment between mind, will, and action, who can think, decide, and move as one unified force, who can eliminate all internal division in crucial moments, that person becomes an unstoppable strategic force. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the leader who can align vision, decision, and execution achieves what others find impossible. In personal development, the individual who can coordinate thought, commitment, and action transforms faster than others believe possible. In any competitive environment, the player who can unite mind, will, and movement prevails over those who remain internally divided. This is why the master strategist trains for alignment with the same dedication others give to individual skills. They understand that the ability to move as one unified force, mind, will, and action in perfect coordination is not just a useful capability, it is the foundation of strategic power. Master the art of alignment, and you master not just yourself, but the very nature of strategic effectiveness. This is not just a principle of self-development, it is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Listen carefully to this profound truth that separates the master strategist from the amateur. Chaos is not your enemy, it is your greatest ally. While others fear disorder, while they retreat from uncertainty, while they become paralyzed by confusion, you must learn to move through chaos like a fish moves through water. Consider this fundamental principle. In any situation of perfect order, of complete predictability, of absolute clarity, strategic advantage is nearly impossible to achieve. Why? Because in such conditions, all participants can see equally well, plan equally effectively, move equally confidently. But in chaos, that is where true strategic opportunity emerges. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of chaos. They see it as something to be avoided, controlled, or eliminated. But the master strategist understands that chaos is not just an environmental condition, it is a strategic resource of immense power. Think about this carefully. When chaos enters a situation, most people's capabilities decrease dramatically. Their thinking becomes confused, their decisions become reactive, their movements become uncoordinated. But for the warrior who has learned to use chaos strategically, these are not problems. They are advantages. The strategic warrior knows that chaos must be understood on multiple levels. Tactical chaos, where immediate conditions become uncertain. Strategic chaos, where long-term patterns become unpredictable. Environmental chaos, where the very context of action becomes fluid. Each level offers its own opportunities. But here's what most fail to grasp. Using chaos is not about creating more disorder, it's about maintaining your own clarity while others become confused. It's about keeping your strategic focus while others lose their way. It's about moving with purpose while others react randomly. Consider how nature teaches this principle. The shark doesn't fear turbulent waters, it uses them to hunt more effectively. The eagle doesn't avoid storm winds, it uses them to soar higher. This is the model for strategic use of chaos, not resistance, but adaptation and exploitation. Think about how many opportunities arise in moments of chaos. How many advantages appear when normal patterns break down? How many victories are achieved precisely because others cannot function effectively in conditions of uncertainty? This is why chaos is not just a condition to be endured, it is a strategic asset to be utilized. The master strategist understands that chaos creates opportunities that don't exist in ordinary conditions. When normal patterns break down, new possibilities emerge. When standard responses fail, innovative solutions become possible. When conventional wisdom proves useless, strategic creativity becomes essential. But understand this, using chaos effectively requires more than just comfort with uncertainty. It requires the ability to maintain strategic clarity while surrounded by confusion. You must become the eye of the storm, the point of calm in the center of turbulence. Consider this truth. Every moment of chaos is a moment of potential advantage. Every instance of disorder is an opportunity for strategic positioning. Every situation of confusion is a chance to move while others hesitate. This is why the strategic warrior trains to function effectively in precisely these conditions. The strategic warrior knows that there are times to create chaos and times to simply utilize existing disorder, times to amplify confusion and times to maintain clarity within it, times to disrupt patterns and times to establish new ones amid the disruption. The mastery lies in knowing which approach serves your strategy best. Think carefully about this. When you learn to use chaos effectively, you gain abilities that others might view as supernatural. The power to see clearly when others become blind. The ability to move decisively when others become paralyzed. The capacity to act strategically when others can only react. Most importantly, understand that using chaos is not about becoming chaotic yourself. It's about maintaining strategic coherence while everything around you loses structure. It's about being the one person who can think, decide, and act effectively when normal order breaks down. So I challenge you, begin to see chaos differently. Start recognizing moments of disorder not as problems to be solved, but as opportunities to be seized. Learn to maintain your strategic clarity precisely when others are losing theirs. Learn to recognize different types of chaos. Sometimes it's obvious, markets crashing, systems failing, plans collapsing. Sometimes it's subtle, small disruptions that create strategic openings. Sometimes it's psychological, uncertainty that affects decision-making. Each type offers its own strategic possibilities. Remember this, the one who can maintain strategic clarity in chaos, who can see opportunities in disorder, who can move effectively through uncertainty, that person holds a tremendous advantage over those who can only function in conditions of order. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the leader who can navigate chaos finds opportunities, while others see only threats. In personal development, the individual who can grow through uncertainty advances while others remain stuck. In any competitive environment, the player who can use chaos strategically prevails over those who need perfect conditions to function. This is why the master strategist trains to operate in chaos with the same dedication others give to operating in order. They understand that the ability to use disorder effectively, to maintain clarity in confusion, to find advantage in uncertainty, these are not just useful skills, they are essential strategic capabilities. Master the art of using chaos. And you master not just uncertain conditions, but the very nature of strategic opportunity. This is not just a principle of adaptation, it is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Listen carefully to this highest principle of strategic mastery. The supreme achievement is not to win 100 battles, but to make combat unnecessary. This is not pacifism. It is the pinnacle of strategic power, where victory is secured. Before the first move is made, consider this fundamental truth. Every battle, no matter how decisively won, costs resources, expends energy, and creates risk. But when you can achieve your objectives without engagement, when you can secure victory without conflict, when you can win without fighting, you have achieved the ultimate strategic position. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of winning without fighting. They think it means avoiding conflict or surrendering objectives or finding compromise. But the master strategist understands that winning without fighting is about making opposition irrelevant through superior strategic position. Think about this carefully. When your position becomes so strong, your strategy so perfect, your advantage so complete that opponents choose not to engage. That is not the absence of victory. That is its highest form. You have won not through force, but through strategic inevitability. The strategic warrior knows that winning without fighting must be achieved on multiple levels. Physical positioning, where your stance prevents attack. Strategic positioning, where your advantages make challenge unthinkable. Psychological positioning, where your presence deters opposition. Each level reinforces the others, but here's what most fail to grasp. Winning without fighting is not about being passive, it's about being so strategically active that combat becomes unnecessary. It's about shaping conditions so completely that victory is secured before anyone else realizes the game has begun. Consider how nature demonstrates this principle. The mighty oak doesn't fight for sunlight. It grows taller than other trees. The river doesn't battle obstacles. It shapes the very landscape to its path. This is the model for strategic victory, not through conflict, but through position and influence. Think about how many resources are wasted in unnecessary battles, how much energy is lost in avoidable conflicts, how many victories are diminished because they required combat to achieve. This is why winning without fighting is not just an ideal, it is the most efficient path to strategic success. The master strategist understands that to win without fighting requires mastery of three elements. Position, where you establish unassailable advantage. Perception, where you shape how others see the situation. Preparation, where you make victory inevitable before engagement becomes possible. But understand this, winning without fighting requires more skill, not less. More strategy, not less. More strength, not less. Because you must be strong enough not just to win conflicts, but to make them unnecessary. Skilled enough not just to prevail in battle, but to transcend its necessity. Consider this truth. Every time you must fight, it represents a strategic failure at some level. Every time you enter conflict, you have missed an opportunity for higher strategic achievement. Every time you engage in combat, you have fallen short of perfect strategic position. The strategic warrior knows that there are times when combat is unavoidable. But they understand that these situations are not opportunities for glory. They are evidence of strategic imperfection. The true goal is to achieve objectives while making opposition tactically impossible. Think carefully about this. When you can win without fighting, you achieve something far more powerful than victory through combat. You demonstrate a level of strategic mastery that others might view as miraculous, not because you defeated opposition, but because you made opposition irrelevant. Most importantly, understand that winning without fighting is not about avoiding confrontation. It's about transcending the need for it. It's about operating at such a high strategic level that direct conflict becomes obsolete. It's about achieving such perfect position that challenge becomes unthinkable. So, I challenge you. Begin to look beyond combat as a path to victory. Start seeing how position, influence, and strategic advantage can achieve objectives without engagement. Learn to recognize opportunities to win through strategic excellence rather than direct confrontation. Learn to distinguish between necessary and unnecessary conflicts, between situations that require engagement and those that could be won through. Superior positioning, between victories that must be fought for and those that could be achieved through strategic mastery. Remember this, the one who can secure their objectives without combat, who can achieve victory without engagement, who can win without fighting, that person has reached the highest level of strategic achievement. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the company that dominates through position and innovation never needs to engage in destructive competition. In relationships, the person who creates genuine value never needs to demand respect. In any competitive environment, the player who achieves strategic perfection never needs to prove their superiority through direct conflict. This is why the master strategist trains in strategic positioning with even greater dedication than they train in combat skills. They understand that the ability to win without fighting, to achieve objectives without engagement, to secure victory without conflict, these are not just advanced capabilities. They are the ultimate expression of strategic mastery. Master the art of winning without fighting, and you master not just conflict, but the very nature of strategic achievement. This is not just a principle of efficiency, it is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Listen carefully to this crucial truth that many warriors never learn. Sometimes the greatest display of strategic wisdom is knowing when to walk away. This is not retreat. It is not surrender. It is the ultimate expression of strategic sovereignty, where you choose your battles based on strategic value rather than emotional impulse. Consider this fundamental principle. Not every battle that presents itself deserves your engagement. Not every challenge that appears requires your response. Not every opponent that emerges warrants your attention. The master strategist understands that strategic withdrawal is not weakness. It is wisdom incarnate. Most people completely misunderstand the nature of walking away. They see it as admitting defeat, as showing fear, as demonstrating lack of courage. But the master strategist understands that walking away from the wrong battle is as strategically crucial as engaging in the right one. Think about this carefully. Every time you engage in a conflict that doesn't serve your strategic objectives, you waste resources that could be used for more important battles. Every time you accept a challenge that doesn't advance your position, you surrender strategic advantage for tactical engagement. The strategic warrior knows that walking away must be evaluated on multiple levels. Tactical withdrawal, where immediate engagement serves no purpose. Strategic disengagement, where long-term involvement drains rather than builds power. Each level requires its own kind of wisdom, but here is what most fail to grasp. Walking away is not about avoiding difficulty. It's about choosing your strategic investments wisely. It's not about fear of loss. It's about clarity of purpose. It's not about lacking courage. It's about possessing wisdom. Consider how nature demonstrates this principle. The wolf doesn't hunt every prey it sees. It selects its targets based on strategic value. The eagle doesn't chase every bird that crosses its path. It chooses its battles based on energy return. This is the model for strategic disengagement. Think about how many resources are wasted on unnecessary engagements. How much energy is lost in pointless conflicts. How many opportunities are missed because focus was given to battles that didn't matter. This is why knowing when to walk away is not just useful, it is strategically essential. The master strategist understands that walking away requires mastery of three elements. Assessment, where you evaluate the true strategic value of engagement. Timing, where you choose the perfect moment to disengage. Execution, where you withdraw in a way that preserves future options. But understand this, walking away requires more strength, not less. More confidence, not less. More strategic clarity, not less. Because you must be strong enough not just to engage in battle, but to refuse it when it doesn't serve your purpose. Confident enough not just to fight, but to walk away when fighting isn't strategically sound. Consider this truth. Every unnecessary battle you engage in is a strategic defeat, even if you win tactically. Every pointless conflict you pursue is a resource lost, even if you prevail in the moment. Every unworthy challenge you accept is an opportunity surrendered, even if you overcome it. The strategic warrior knows that there are battles worth fighting and battles worth avoiding, challenges worth accepting and challenges worth declining, opponents worth engaging and opponents worth ignoring. The wisdom lies not in knowing these distinctions exist, but in having the clarity to recognize them and the strength to act accordingly. Think carefully about this. When you master the art of walking away, you achieve something more powerful than victory through combat. You demonstrate a level of strategic mastery that others might view as incomprehensible, not because you won or lost, but because you chose not to play games that didn't serve your strategy. Most importantly, understand that walking away is not about avoiding challenge. It's about choosing your challenges strategically. It's not about escaping difficulty. It's about selecting which difficulties are worth your investment. It's not about finding an easy path. It's about finding the right path. So I challenge you, begin to evaluate your engagements more strategically. Start asking harder questions about which battles truly deserve your energy. Learn to recognize the difference between opportunities worth pursuing and distractions worth avoiding. Learn to distinguish between strategic withdrawal and fearful retreat, between wise disengagement and impulsive escape, between walking away from the wrong battle and running away from the right one. These are not just philosophical distinctions, they are practical necessities. Remember this: the one who can walk away from battles that don't serve their strategy, who can disengage from conflicts that drain rather than build power, who can ignore challenges that offer no strategic value, that person has achieved true strategic freedom. Consider how this principle applies in every domain of strategic life. In business, the company that knows which opportunities to pursue and which to ignore grows while others exhaust themselves. In relationships, the person who knows which battles matter and which don't maintains harmony while others create chaos. In any competitive environment, the player who knows when to engage and when to walk away preserves energy while others waste it. This is why the master strategist trains in strategic assessment with the same dedication they give to combat skills. They understand that the ability to walk away wisely, to disengage strategically, to preserve resources for worthy battles, these are not just useful capabilities, they are fundamental requirements of strategic mastery. Master the art of walking away, and you master not just engagement and disengagement, but the very nature of strategic choice. This is not just a principle of resource preservation, it is a fundamental law of success in any domain. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Listen carefully, for we have arrived at the ultimate truth of strategic mastery. Everything in your life is a campaign. Every aspect of your existence is a battlefield. Every moment of your journey is a strategic situation requiring the mind of a grand strategist. This is not metaphor. It is the fundamental reality of strategic living. Consider this essential principle. Your career is not just work. It is a strategic campaign requiring the same level of tactical wisdom as any military operation. Your relationships are not just connections. They are alliances requiring the same diplomatic mastery as international relations. Your personal development is not just growth. It is a strategic conquest requiring the same strategic thinking. As empire building, most people completely misunderstand the nature of life strategy. They plan randomly, move reactively, and then wonder why their campaigns fail. But the grand strategist understands that every aspect of life must be approached with the same strategic sophistication a general brings to warfare. Think about this carefully. When you become the grand strategist of your life, everything changes. Random events become tactical opportunities. Obstacles become strategic advantages. Challenges become campaigns to be won. This is not about controlling life. It is about approaching it with strategic wisdom. The strategic warrior knows that life strategy must operate on multiple levels simultaneously. Personal strategy, where you develop your capabilities and position. Professional strategy, where you build your influence and impact. Relational strategy, where you cultivate your alliances and support. Each level must reinforce the others, but here is what most fail to grasp. Being the grand strategist of your life doesn't mean every moment must be calculated. It means every moment must serve your greater strategy. Even relaxation, even spontaneity, even apparent randomness should advance your strategic position. Consider how nature demonstrates this principle. The ocean doesn't plan every wave, but every wave serves its purpose. The forest doesn't calculate every growth, but every growth advances its position. This is the model for life strategy, not rigid control, but strategic harmony. Think about how many lives are wasted through lack of strategic thinking, how many potentials are squandered through random movement, how many possibilities are lost through tactical blindness. This is why becoming your own grand strategist is not just helpful, it is essential for meaningful achievement. The master strategist understands that life strategy requires mastery of three elements. Vision, where you see the larger campaign, beyond immediate battles. Integration, where you align all aspects of life towards strategic objectives. Execution, where you move with tactical precision in every domain. But understand this, being the grand strategist of your life requires more sophistication, not less. More awareness, not less. More strategic thinking, not less. Because you must coordinate multiple campaigns, manage various resources, and advance numerous objectives simultaneously. Consider this truth: every moment spent moving without strategy is a moment lost to random chance. Every decision made without tactical awareness is an opportunity surrendered to circumstance. Every action taken without strategic purpose is energy wasted on meaningless movement. The strategic warrior knows that there are times for bold campaigns and times for subtle positioning, times for rapid advance and times for patient development, times for concentrated focus and times for broad coordination. The mastery lies in knowing which serves your greater strategy at each moment. Think carefully about this. When you become the grand strategist of your life, you achieve something more powerful than success in any single domain. You create a life where every element supports every other element, where every move serves multiple objectives, where every position strengthens your entire strategic situation. Most importantly, understand that being your own grand strategist is not about controlling everything, it's about approaching everything strategically. It's not about eliminating uncertainty. It's about using it advantageously. It's not about perfect prediction. It's about perfect strategic positioning, regardless of what comes. So I challenge you, begin to see your entire life as a strategic campaign. Start viewing every aspect of your existence through the lens of strategic advantage. Learn to coordinate your various life domains like a general coordinates different battlefields. Learn to recognize the strategic implications of every choice, the tactical opportunities in every situation, the strategic advantage hidden in every challenge. These are not just philosophical perspectives, they are practical necessities for strategic living. Remember this: the one who becomes the grand strategist of their own life, who approaches every domain with strategic wisdom, who moves through existence with tactical awareness, that person achieves something far greater than success. They achieve strategic mastery of life itself. Consider how this principle applies in every aspect of existence. In career, the person who thinks like a grand strategist turns every task into strategic advantage. In relationships, the one who approaches connection strategically builds unshakable alliances. In personal growth, the individual who sees development as a campaign creates unstoppable momentum. This is why the master strategist approaches life with the same strategic sophistication they would bring to any crucial campaign. They understand that the ability to think strategically, move tactically, and coordinate comprehensively across all life domains is not just useful. It is the fundamental requirement for true success. Master the art of grand strategy and you master not just individual battles, but the entire campaign of life. This is not just a principle of personal development. It is the fundamental law of strategic living. This is the way of the strategic warrior. This is the path to true power. Thea, time has come. You have learned the principles. You have absorbed the wisdom. You have glimpsed the possibilities. Now it falls to you to become the grand strategist of your own life, to apply these teachings not just in isolated moments, but across the entire spectrum of your existence. Remember, you already have what it takes. The strategic mind is within you. The tactical wisdom is available to you. The power to coordinate your life with strategic mastery is yours to claim. Now, go prove it. Become the grand strategist you were meant to be. This is your moment. This is your campaign. This is your destiny.